Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Open to Work Beyond the Label. Today, I have Hannah Pencek with us. She is a passionate sales leader who found her calling in building and scaling high-performing inside sales teams. She leads with a people-first mindset, blending data, empathy, and strategy to empower teams and drive results. Inspired by servant leadership, Hannah is all about creating environments where people can thrive and grow, and I know Hannah personally, and I will say that is exactly who she is. So I'm so excited to have you on, Hannah. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So, Hannah, everyone needs to know who's Hannah behind the label.
So, behind the label, I am a mom of two crazy girls who are going to give me all of the karma I deserve from my youth and high school years. I can already tell they're strong-willed powerhouses, but that's really what takes up every second that I'm not working, and I'm a super proud mom and just love spending time with them, which I've been able to really lean into with this break. So
Awesome. Well, I didn't prepare you for this, but you also have to tell everyone that you are an incredible gardener. And I look up to you in that area because I'm not a great gardener yet. But I'm hoping that you can continue to be my mentor in that area because I'm a terrible gardener.
see, you guys see the Instagram version, and then there's the real life that we don't talk about of all the plants that I kill. It's taken many years to hone the craft, but yes, I love to garden. I'm about 6, 7 years in and learning something new every day.
Love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Hannah. And I want to have everyone understand who's Hannah from where you started your early career, right? I think it'd be good to understand how you got to who you are as a leader today. And maybe you can share something that people don't know about you for anybody who does know you today.
Yeah, so I kind of say I'm a unique millennial in the fact that I spent my whole career at my previous job for 11 years. So it was my first job out of college, and I entered in an entry-level sales role, and I really found early on that what I put in was what I got out of it. So I became really hungry to succeed in that role and then get promoted to account executive, and I was a seller for many years. And when the role became available for me to step into leadership, I actually remember saying, no, I don't know if I'm ready, but it really felt like a risk that I should take. And I'm so happy I did it. I really found my calling in leadership. So I would say, though, I mean, something that people don't know about me, which I really share not a ton, but I'm comfortable sharing here because I hope that it would inspire other people. So, a few years into my career, I actually made the decision to quit drinking alcohol. So, I've been sober from alcohol for over 6 years. And the reason that I kind of tie that in to career is because I feel really proud of the fact that I was able to go through such a personal obstacle and transformation while keeping my career afloat. And I truly do not believe that I would be where I'm at in my career right now if I hadn't made that decision, if I hadn't had that discipline in my health journey. I don't think that I would have the same discipline in my career and that I'd be where I am today. So I really attribute a lot to that. And it's not something that I necessarily talk about a lot, but it's something that I'm incredibly proud of. Of
Well, thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable. There
course.
are many people who have been down that path and just come out on the other side so incredibly successful and happy for having made that decision. So, thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners will resonate with that, whether they've been down that path or whether they want to go down that path. And so, that's really awesome that you're willing to share that with us.
Well, it's the best decision I ever made, truly. And I think for anyone listening who's maybe thinking about trying it out, it's hard at first, but it is so, so worthwhile to just feel whole and rested and have clarity. And it's amazing. And anyone listening who wants to reach out to me and talk with me about it, I'd be happy to do that too.
Thank you for offering that up, Hannah. So I want to talk about the fact that you said no to leadership and then you did it, right? And I'm sure it was hard. Will you share with everyone what that transition was like for you?
It was so hard. It was one of
I've
the
been there.
hardest
That's
things
why I
I've
asked.
ever been through. So I went from peer to leader overnight. And I had always had hopes of being in leadership. I always thought that I would end up in leadership. I just, say the term natural born leader, whatever that means. But I always just kind of had my heart set on that. When the time came, it was just, how we think of these timelines, oh, in 5 to 7 years, I'll be in leadership. It just came up a little bit sooner than I was expecting, but it was an opportunity that I don't think I would have had externally. It was really one of those internal opportunities that I felt like I needed to seize and just kind of dive in head first. So hard. Any new leader going from peer to leader without any experience, you are going to make mistakes. And the one thing that I maybe wish I would have done in hindsight, like if I could do it all over again, I'm grateful for the lessons. I would have done less earlier on. I think that if you're making the jump into leadership, I think the first thing that you should do, get your surroundings, understand your surroundings, build relationships up, build relationships with your team, talk to people, talk to mentors, study, try to figure out your own style a little bit. I think that I sort of had pressure, whether it was from myself or elsewhere, to kind of come in and do things right away. And it was fine and it worked out, but I think that in hindsight, I would have maybe slowed down a little bit.
Yes, it's funny that you say that. I never thought about that, but you're so right because I did the same thing where I jumped right in and I had these expectations that these individuals would be like me and work as hard as me and put in as much effort as me and do all the things like me. And unfortunately, it wasn't that way. And I earned a lot of unhappy people on my team during that transition. And honestly, we had to end up rebuilding that team because it definitely fell apart. I had zero experience. I didn't really have any training. To be honest, I don't think most people get training when they move into management. And so to slow down and to really reflect on, okay, what made me successful, but how could other people be successful even if it's not being like me? And then what research and what learning and development can I do on my own outside of my company to become a really great leader? Because that's where I see people fall down is waiting for their company to teach them how to do or to be. That's not how it is. You have to be the person that leads yourself and trains yourself in times when no one's providing that to you. Like you've got to take ownership of your growth.
Yep. And I would have found a legit mentor sooner. I think I was having conversations with other leaders. Mentorship is so important. And honestly, having multiple mentors is really a fantastic way to learn.
Yeah, because everyone has a different style too, and you're going to take a little bit from this person and a little bit from that person. And then certain situations, they say don't go to somebody asking for advice when that person has never walked that path or been on that journey. When you want to start a podcast, as an example, don't go and ask everybody who hasn't started a podcast how to start a podcast. Go talk to people who have podcasts, you know? So, okay, thank you for sharing that because I know a lot of people will also resonate with the fact that moving into leadership, especially being peers and then manager, is very difficult. And so slowing down is a really great way to make that pivot and reflecting. That's great feedback. Now, throughout your career, Hannah, I'm sure there's been times where you've said no, but also people have said no to you. So, what is a time where you've heard no and how did you turn it into a win for yourself?
This is a really good question. And I'm not sure if this is necessarily a no. I'm going to tell another vulnerable story. There was a time when I was actually told by a former leader that I was not entitled to opinions. And that was a moment in my life and career where I felt the best way I can describe it is someone just swiftly pulling a chair out from under you without you knowing it's coming. And just that stomach drop of feeling honestly worthless, voiceless, powerless. And I think there was a pattern of this kind of dynamic leading up to it. That moment was so empowering because I remember coming out of that conversation. I made a decision and commitment to myself that I was never going to let myself stay in situations where I was spoken to and treated like that. And I removed myself from that dynamic for good. So it's been kind of a journey since, but my life has improved so much since making that commitment to myself. And I consider that a huge win. And unfortunately, it took being in a moment that made me feel very less than to get to that point, but I'm happy it happened.
They say that those moments where things get hard or somebody puts you in a position where you need to completely shift your mindset and your thinking are when you become the strongest in your life and in your career. And it's really sad to think about the fact that unfortunately we do have to have those experiences.
Yeah, agree.
Sometimes there are things that are said to us that we don't like, we don't understand, we don't resonate with. And quite frankly, we're like, what the F? Did
Yeah,
you really just say that
exactly.
out loud?
Exactly. Just no wonder like how to I just don't understand.
And as women in particular, a lot of the time it's hard for us to actually step back and say, what the F out loud? Like, and how do we respond to that? And I can tell you there's been a lot of times where people have said things to me or made me feel small or made me feel less than, and I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know how to respond. There's
Right.
this guy, Jefferson Fisher. Anyone who doesn't know who it is, go follow him on Instagram. He helps people in situations where there's conflict or somebody says something like that to you. How do you respond? One thing that I took away from him was, will you say that again? And then the person realizes what they just said, and then they have to say it again, but they kind of start to walk it back. So in now that I'm older and wiser and I listen to people like Jefferson Fisher, I might say, "Would you say that again?" Or, "Well, that's a
Totally.
really weird thing to say." But
Totally.
you
And
don't know that as a young leader.
no, you don't. And I think that moments like that, going through an experience like that, I mean, that's a type of conversation and conflict and interaction I just never pictured myself being in the workplace. And I think going through that experience has now made me more cognizant of just how I manage myself in difficult situations because I'm not perfect. And I know it's not going to be the last time I face a difficult personality in sales, especially or in the workforce. And so really understanding how to best respond, how to regulate the emotions, how to not personalize it. I mean, something that I'm really leaning into right now, I'm listening to the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, which is such a good book. I'm almost done with it, but just relinquishing that control that other people have over you. So if someone behaves poorly in that scenario, I didn't behave poorly. The other person was behaving poorly. It still had a huge impact on me. If I could put myself back in that, time and just say let them. That's not a reflection of me, that's a reflection of them. How do I now move forward being my best self?
That is so good. So, this is a very vulnerable episode, and I am loving it, and I appreciate you for playing. So,
Yeah, of course.
take us to a moment when everything almost fell apart, and how did you push through? I know you've had some challenges, and
Yeah.
again, I appreciate you being so vulnerable here. Will you share a story about it all almost falling apart?
I have a good one for this. So I think that any other moms out there could probably relate to this, moms in sales. So sales is and it's a career where even taking a week off sometimes feels like a massive impact and slows you down. After my first maternity leave, so I came back, I was an individual contributor. I had had 3 months off. I was a new mom, a first time mom. I wasn't getting any sleep. I came back to an empty funnel, a changed business. Our business was evolving. We were starting to push up market from a very transactional sale. It was a struggle to ramp back into the business. I mean, it took me months and months to the point where I went from being someone who was consistently overachieving to bottom of the board. And there was a time where I was actually almost put on a PIP. And I had to have this moment of stepping back and kind of asking myself those really tough questions. A, is this still the right fit for me? I determined in that moment, I said, I love sales and I'm good at it. And just because I'm a mom and different, it's okay if I want to take another path, but I want to stay. I want to see if I can reinvent myself. That was a time where I did. I reinvented myself. I went 150% into becoming a better salesperson. What had worked for me a year ago wasn't working today. I read every sales book and listened to every podcast and tried new things. And I got really methodical about how I was attacking my pipeline. Every deal was gold. I got organized. I not only turned it around, I became a top performer after that. And that was shortly before I moved into leadership.
Wow.
Really proud of that time.
I'm so proud to hear this story. I didn't even know that. I just always
Yeah,
looked
I've
at you
never
as a
told you
top
that
performer.
either. Feels like feels like a lifetime ago, but it was definitely a very, very hard time in my career.
Yeah, there's so many things I want to say. I'm not a mom and I'm tired. And when I'm tired, I'm incapable. I have to prioritize sleep or else I literally can't survive. So I give all the credit in the world to all of the moms who are just pushing through that tiredness that I know you moms have in that time. So, so much credit there alone. Pivoting into transforming from the low performer who's about to go on plan to an exceptional performer who then gets promoted into leadership and all of those things, it sounds like you invested the time in yourself.
100%.
And ever, I I'm going to be honest, I've coached a lot of salespeople up and I've coached a lot of salespeople out, unfortunately. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the difference between taking the accountability and driving forward what you need to do for yourself to be successful versus it's your fault as a leader, you're micromanaging me, I'm unhappy, every excuse, it's the business, I don't have enough leads, I enter a million thousand excuses, and those are the people that have to get coached out because they're not taking the time to reflect about, okay, you're telling me that I'm not doing well. I can see that I'm not doing well. I'm not closing the business. I'm not making the money. As a salesperson, money is why we're all here. And it takes that realization that it's no one's fault but my own. It doesn't matter whose fault it is or what is at fault. I am responsible for my success. And it's that mindset shift that changes everything.
And it was 110% a mindset shift. Here's what I'll say. If there are any struggling salespeople out there, we all go through highs and lows. I'll tell you what I think the great thing about sales is and why I love this career. We really have a blank canvas in a lot of ways to be creative and try new things. Like the way people interact, the way we sell, it's always changing. So something I did back in that time is I read a lot. It would have been a mistake for me to just take one of the books I read and apply that exactly as the Bible and the end all be all. What I did is I picked different pieces and things that resonated with me and I tried them, and things that were working I kept on to. And it's almost like I developed my own little sales process that worked really well for me, that resonated with my clients, that was producing results for me, knowing that you can keep pivoting and shifting and trying new things. And so I would challenge any salesperson out there, even if you are exceeding targets, is be open to reinventing yourself. Be open to trying new things. I know there's a lot of companies who maybe have a strict methodology or they're coaching you to specific behaviors. I would be concerned if there was a sales leader out there who wasn't open to someone coming up to them and saying, "Hey, do you mind if I try this type of recap email, or what do you think of this type of layout for the slide deck that we open up our demo with?" And just see what works.
Yeah, you can reinvent yourself every day, and doing the same thing the way that you did it 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago in sales is a great way to fail.
Yeah,
You have
agreed.
to create new tactics and new strategies. And also, hallelujah to taking pieces of different sales processes and methodologies, because that's exactly how I've been successful as a leader. But
Mhm.
you can't do that if you're not reading books and if you're not
Right.
getting better and learning new
Investing
ways
in
of working.
yourself. And even if it's, I hear people say, I don't, I'm tired, I don't really like to read. Audiobooks are awesome. There's blog posts. I mean, you can get little nuggets of training. It's no excuse. If you're not a
I love
reader,
it.
it's no excuse to not invest in professional development.
Totally. Okay, so now I have to ask you though, what book, one book, highly recommended sales book would you recommend? That wasn't a good way of asking the question, but which
No, no,
book
I know
would you
exactly
recommend?
what you mean. So I always go back to one that I actually read during that time when I was reinventing myself. It's stuck with me since. I need to reread it because it's probably been 5, 6 years since I've read it, but it's called Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play. I'd have to get back to you on the authors of that. It's not top of mind. But really what it's about, what I love about it is the whole premise is oftentimes salespeople put customers on a pedestal and they're all about pushing the product. And it's not that we shouldn't have customers on a pedestal. We should still respect them, but it's really about bringing the relationship to a side by hand in hand. We're walking together in the same direction beside each other towards the right solution for you. And so it's a little bit customer centric selling, but I just love that overall approach to me is what really helped with my mindset shift of I'm not just a salesperson trying to push a product. I'm here to help people find outcomes that are going to improve their lives. And if I'm approaching it that way from the very beginning, the whole process becomes more of a win-win than a desperate sale, you know?
Yes, I do know salespeople need to hold value upon what they bring to the table and stop treating customers like they are on a pedestal. Because at the
Yeah,
end of the
I
day,
agree.
like it should be a partnership. We're dancing. I'm helping you. And yes, I'm going to get a commission out of it, but I'm helping you at the end of the day. And it has to be that mindset and it has to be, do you want the help or not? Because there are customers who I will walk away from if they don't, if they want to treat me like a salesperson, it's like, I'm a consultant. So if you don't
Yeah,
want my help, I'm out.
right. I agree with
So,
that.
oh my gosh, I could talk to you about sales all day. Let's
Yeah.
keep moving. What's one piece of advice that you wish someone gave you when you were starting out?
Master listening before speaking, which is hard for salespeople, hard for sales leaders. And this goes hand in hand. I think this applies to a frontline sales role as much as it does to a leadership role. I very strongly believe we were given two ears and one mouth for a reason. It's something I'm still working on because I'm social and talkative and I get excited when I'm passionate about something and I'm passionate about sales. So still mastering it, but I think that coming into a sales career, I think there was maybe a misconception that you had to be this eccentric, talking all the time, pitching all the time, over the top person. And I don't think you need to be. I think there's so much power both on the front line of selling and the leadership side of it, of being a really good listener.
The best salespeople listen more and talk less. There's, you got to be curious too. The other thing that drives me crazy is like you ask a question and then you have an answer and you're not actually listening to what the client or the person you're talking to in general is saying because you're so focused on what you're going to say next. Listening, I agree. You got to listen more and talk less, especially as a salesperson. What's one rule that you think everyone should break in order to truly grow?
This one's hard for me because I'm a rule follower
Me
by
too.
nature. I don't know what it is. I have a
It's because we're
really
women.
yes, probably. So I would say for that to summarize, always seeking approval is a rule that you should break. And you definitely need to be tactful about this. But as I've matured in my career, I've really found that there are absolutely times without question that you should ask for forgiveness instead of permission.
Totally agreed. We seek validation and approval to do things all the time. I noticed it when I first started my Instagram and when I first started posting on LinkedIn and when I first started my videos online, I found myself asking everyone like, "Hey, what do you think of this video? Hey, and I like feedback, don't get me wrong. If anyone sees any of this like podcast videos and you have feedback for me, share it with me. I love feedback. But at the same time, I'm not going to ask permission or approval or validation for me to post it. If I like it, if I like the picture, if I like the video, if I like whatever it is, I'm going to post it. Stop asking
Yeah.
permission, stop seeking validation is so important.
And I do think it's harder for women.
Because we were taught, be a good little girl,
Yes.
raise your hand.
I'm practicing as I move forward in my next role, something that's just kind of like bold and a sticky note on my next future desk is going to be take more risks.
I love it. That's
Yeah.
incredible. So, what kind of work energizes you right now? I think so you're open to work, and I know that you are looking at some potential opportunities, but what right now is giving you life and energy? What do you want out of your career moving forward?
I believe I have found my calling as a sales leader. I've done a lot of reflecting. Is this the path for me? Is this the industry for me? I love what I do. I think that what's really energizing for me right now and what I'm most excited about is finding a company and a culture that deep down from top to bottom shares the same values and beliefs that I have around people first and servant leadership. I think that it's really easy for companies to say culture's great, people first, all of this, but I think in practice, it's actually something that's really difficult to do. And it's really ballsy because sometimes you sacrifice I'll just say revenue in the short term with servant leader principles for long term success and building that real, true top to bottom culture that is about the people. I can elaborate on that because I've got a lot of this is like a really passion topic for me.
Please tell us more.
Okay. So servant leadership, I think, it's a buzzword. You know, it's out there, it's everywhere. I think that it's easy to throw around. The best way for me to summarize it, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who know who Simon Sinek is. A quote from him is essentially my North Star. So what he says is he says there isn't a leader on the planet who is responsible for the results. The leader is responsible for the people who are responsible for the results. And something that I've seen firsthand and secondhand and just in the industry, LinkedIn, is I think that there's so much focus, especially in sales, results, results, results. Sales kind of gets this reputation of being a boiler room type of industry. It has to be in a sense, but I'm really out to prove that you can lead with empathy and still get results. Because if you lead with a people first mentality, if you treat the people right, you're not micromanaging, you hire people you trust, there's flexibility, they have the resources to succeed. You're operationally excellent. You have a human who's coming in every day, liking what they're doing, liking who they're doing it for. That person is going to show up 110%. The results will follow. When we're so focused on bottom line results, you messed up, shame on you, do better, you didn't hit 100%, you're out of here, that is a recipe for disaster. You're going to have a bunch of broken people who are scared to speak up and not showing up being their best. And so In summary, I really feel like it's become my personal mission to prove that you can have a high performance sales culture with a people first mentality.
Is such a great way to explain servant leadership. And one thing I want to actually bring to the table on this topic is that when my top performers are at a low,
Mhm.
it's sales, okay? Sometimes it happens. And they've closed all their pipeline and they crushed it. And then it's like, and now I'm rebuilding. There's that rebuilding point that happens.
It does.
That's not when you kick them. If anything, when they're like at the top of their game, that's when I'm kicking them and I'm coaching harder. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, do this, do that. Okay, where's our new opportunities? I'm coaching harder when they're at the top of their game because they're at the top of the game and their head is on straight. But when
Mhm.
they're at a low, I am not kicking them when they're down. I'm like, how can I help you? How can I serve you? How can we work together to rebuild? That makes all the difference. I can tell you high performers are already kicking themselves. Why would you also kick them
Exactly.
too? So
That is such a
you
good
got to
point.
get their head back on straight because if anything, they're being harder on themselves than you are on them.
Yep, completely agree.
Servant leadership, I am a huge fan. I actually didn't even know that what that was until you. So thank you for always
Okay.
putting it out there on LinkedIn and for
No,
sharing
of
it here
course.
because it is something
Passionate
I
about.
also resonate with.
Yeah.
So in your next role, I think it would be important to talk about something that in your past you saw as a weakness, but has now become your superpower and you're going to bring to your next opportunity. What is something that you consider a superpower for yourself now?
I consider a superpower for me is my ability to connect with people. And I actually think that where that stems from is a quality that can almost be seen as a liability. So I do consider myself to be an empath. I consider myself to be compassionate and sensitive at times. And I know that in business, sensitivity, especially coming from a female, can be seen as a liability. It's where do you draw that line and where do you start to compartmentalize? Okay, this isn't personal. This is just a difficult personality, the difficult conversation. And I remember there was a time in my career where I used to say, I wish I could switch this sensitivity and almost this, I hate to say it, but softness off. I've gotten to a point now where I've realized that that part of the fiber of my being is where I get that compassion. It's where I get that fierce love and genuine care. And I don't want that to go away because I think that when you show up authentically, compassionately, genuinely for your people, even if you're working remote through a video camera, reps, leaders, cross functionally, people can sense, people can tell who is showing up genuinely and with care and who is not. And I really believe that that's my ability. That really ties into my ability to have hard conversations, relate to my reps, get more out of them, performance manage. So it kind of, again, used to be something that I wish I could have just washed away from my personality that now I'm really proud of because I've learned to harness it a little bit more and use it for good.
We all have different characteristics in our personality that can be considered negative, or
Hmm.
we can harness the power and make it a positive. You think about
Exactly.
how sometimes we can be assertive, and people look at that as you're being a witch.
Yeah.
Actually, that assertiveness is going to drive me forward, and I can harness that power and use it to get to my next level. Or I can just say I'm a witch. You
Yeah.
label it, and it's not good. So take what you feel is negative and think about how can I actually harness this power and make it a positive and drive myself forward with these
Exactly.
characteristics that I have and I'm not going to get rid of. There's certain things that we just can't get rid of. They're fibers of our
Totally.
being as you indicated. So
I also really believe I used to kind of label myself, or maybe there were others in business who labeled me as sensitive, and I used to take it so hard, of course, because I have a sensitive heart. What I have also learned for anyone else out there who also can feel kind of like soft and sensitive sometimes, which is not a good feeling in business. I firmly believe, and I am living proof, that you can be sensitive and resilient as hell at the same time. I am a tough witch. And I feel so confident saying that because I've been through a lot, I've overcome a lot, and I can really get through anything. I might just shed a tear or two in the bathroom sometimes when I'm feeling extra down, but I'm gonna get through it.
I love it. And it's okay. It's okay
Yeah,
to
it's
feel
okay.
that way. Let's just embrace our feelings and move forward and find ways to take what we think are negative characteristics and make them our superpowers. So thank
Yep.
you. Now, with the superpowers that you have, because you have so many, what kind of problems are you excited to solve at your next company that you're going to work with?
Yeah, so I something that I have found is probably the most important and difficult aspect of leadership is talent management. You would probably agree with that. And that was one of those things when I first stepped into the role from peer to leader that I didn't realize. I kind of thought I would have my team. Maybe there were a couple people I'd hire and then you call it a day. Oh my gosh, it is just ever evolving. People are always changing. Every single rep is so different. And I've managed a lot of people in a short amount of time. At the next company I go to, I'm going to bring a lot of talent management skills. I've gotten good at hiring early in my career. I maybe looked a little more towards skill than will. I look a lot more towards will now. Spotting problems early on, knowing how to coach, knowing when it's time to coach up, knowing when it's time to coach out, using that authenticity and genuine caring that I have to build relationships with reps first and foremost. That leads to such a stronger relationship and I think better results. So it's just all of the different dynamics of talent management that is definitely one of my strengths that I can help a new company with.
Hiring is critical,
It is.
and hiring the right person could be the difference between, or hiring the wrong person, could be the difference between having a super successful team or totally downhill spiral. So, hiring and talent management, managing people differently because everyone has different skill sets and different ways of working and all the things is critical. And a lot of leaders do miss on that. Quite
Yeah.
honestly, they manage everyone the same way and it doesn't work.
And people change. I mean, I think back to the story I told you all about maternity leave. You could have a rock star performer for 5 years go have this exciting time in their life and go have a baby and come back a different person, a different funnel, lack of sleep. You've got to pivot and support that person in a different way. So it's very, very difficult, but it's also really rewarding.
Yeah. So, what legacy do you want to leave behind and how are you building it today?
This ties back to what we were just talking about. The legacy that I want to leave is that high performance culture and empathetic leadership aren't mutually exclusive. Today in practice, I'm just trying to learn from past triumphs and mistakes in managing up and managing down, being very confident and firm in my beliefs around the way I believe leadership should be practiced through servant leadership, finding a company that shares the same values and any organization that I go to, any team that I manage, just evangelizing that. And maybe, sky's the limit. If I run a company one day, there's nothing that would make me more proud than to run a company that top to bottom shares that mindset and puts people first and are just crushing it as a result. So I'm just going to continue to be a student and continue to find ways to better myself as a mom and as a wife and as a friend and as a professional. And I think it all ties in together. If you focus on being a good person and person with high integrity and always doing your best and showing up as your best, I really believe that the rest will follow.
Yes, any company that hires you is going to be so incredibly lucky. And you're saying it without saying it. Culture beats strategy, right? Like that
Definitely.
is so important. Like you continue to talk about how the people is what makes you successful. And every wildly successful business leader knows that when they hire the right people, it makes their job easier and they ultimately find their success when they focus on the people. So thank you for everything that you've shared here because
Of
it's
course.
so important. And I want leaders to hear all of these things that you're saying. And I want whoever hires you to know that this is the gal that they're bringing in as someone that is so passionate about leadership and people and doing the right thing and being a good person. Anything that you want to leave our listeners with, maybe something you would share with some of the younger folks out there who are just getting into their career, or what do you want to leave the audience with before we end today's session?
I would say that it is inevitable that people are going to tell you you're wrong. People are going to make you feel less than. And something I wish I had the confidence in myself early on, and I hope that you have the confidence listening to this, is just believe that the way that people act and treat you is a reflection of them. It's not a reflection of you. So be confident in who you are, in your values, and just show up every day as that best version of yourself and have the confidence to know who you are.
I love it. Hannah, how can people connect with you after this episode if they want to chat more about servant leadership or if they want to potentially offer an opportunity to you? How can they connect with you?
LinkedIn is a great way. So it's Hannah Pencek, which I'm sure will be in the information on the podcast. So LinkedIn's a great way to do that. I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Hannah. And for everyone listening, thank you for listening. If you're open to work and ready to step into the spotlight, please reach out to me and we'll see if we can get you on the show. But thanks again, and until next time, take care, everyone.